Alright, so as we've established up to this point in time, and especially after the released body cam footage, where we're at is that Reckless Ben stepped into a situation that should have been a corporate strong arm of a person out of their personal property that was technically not illegal, and was being done by a group of narcissists who have convinced everybody that Reckless Ben is basically Johnny Somali. The police department, trying to do similar to what the Koreans and other people have done to Johnny Somali, are trying to bring down the legal system hard on him at this point, at the stage of this video that I'm about to cover, because to them, this is some rando in it for clicks, views, and money, and they need to make sure they don't incentivize harassment campaigns against innocent people. That is the stance of the police and all the people currently close to it at the time of this video coming out. Now, as we're going to see when he starts this is the response they set out after he released part 1 publicly.
Well, Bricks and Minifigs officially responded to my Lego video we made about them, and I haven't read it yet, but someone just sent it to me, so I was like, well, let's make a video about this. This is not Lego video part 2. Part 2 is still on my Patreon if you want to check it out. Patreon.com/RecklessBen. This is just our response to Bricks and Minifigs' response. Okay, should we pull it up? Actually, wait, before we start the video, we gotta talk about our sponsors. This video is sponsored by We Steal From Old People, and you can
buy their shirts. Buy their shirts.
Visit us at www.westealfromoldpeople.com. We're actually at We Steal From Old People's headquarters right now. This is our office, and we've been taking phone calls all day. Give us a call.
We would love to steal from old people for you, if you want.
Yeah. But we can't take credit for our business model. We're literally just stealing from Bricks and Minifigs. They're the ones that thought of this genius business model, so they get all the credit for this.
Again, this is fucking insane, but also the perfect way to come after a narcissist. And I hope you can hear my music in the background. I hope it's not too loud. If it is, I'll crank it down a little bit. I did a test recording. It seemed fine, but I tipped it up a little bit. We'll see if this is balanced. Hopefully that fills in the white space more. But you are in this video after already having a sign that went viral, and now having a video that went viral showing all the conversations they want to claim didn't happen. You brought evidence of what they had been doing to you to light. I actually think to some degree that this is why the Forks Police Department ended up leaking that footage. Because somebody in there saw this video. Somebody in there was getting reports about them being corrupt in part 2. And so they wanted to exonerate their name. They wanted to show everybody what they were being told and why they did what they did. But again, we're covering this in chronological order. So Ben is already proving yet again that he is in active war as far as the narcissist is concerned. Oh, I forgot my open disclaimer. Everything said here is based entirely in speculation based on 30 years of experience dealing with narcissistic personalities. Do not use any of what I say here to project onto other people. If you suspect you have a narcissist in your life, disengage and quietly remove yourself from the situation, understanding that they will, of course, attempt to punish you for doing so. Do not join the narcissist arms race and document every interaction you have with a narcissist. What I'm saying here is entirely for educational purposes and is not an out-and-out accusation of narcissism on the part of Bricks and Minifigs. Whether or not their behavior aligns with these tactics is just serving as an excellent object lesson. That said, narcissistic personality disorder is an actual medical disorder, not merely a label to apply to someone. I am not a medical professional and cannot provide that label. Alright, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get back to Ben bringing up how they responded, and me looking at this for educational purposes through the lens of a narcissist. Keep in mind, Ben was not the intended target of this message. They have already given up at this point in time trying to convince Ben. This is the message they're pumping out to send their story out there and get ahead of Ben, similar to what they did with the police. They are trying to paint Ben as a Johnny Somali sort to everybody around the world.
They posted this on their website. Let's see what they said. Over the past several months, many in our community have seen posts and videos regarding a dispute involving the former Bricks and Minifigs location in Salem, Oregon. We understand the frustration and passion behind these discussions. Do they understand?
I don't think they fully understand.
Because when I went to ask him about this was his response.
What's going on?
So you guys are holding some of our Legos?
No, we're not.
Document every conversation you have with a narcissist.
You're not?
Bricks and Minifigs is built on a community of collectors and families who care deeply about fairness, and that is a value we share. Maybe Bricks and Minifigs just shows their care in a completely different way than most people do, and they show that care by stealing from people.
To be absolutely clear, Bricks and Minifigs does not condone, tolerate, or participate in the exploitation of anyone, especially older adults or vulnerable members of our community. I fucking love.
Except, I want to point this out. This is supposed to be... let me clarify this, because... yes, he doesn't condone it. If ever confronted with somebody else doing it, he would condemn these behaviors like anybody else. If Ammon was not the one behind this, then he would make a big PR campaign to play the good guy and demonize his fellow narcissists. That's if he was a narcissist, of course. Why? Because it gives him the goodwill and the good PR that I keep telling you they cash in moments when they're bending the rules. Rules that to them, they're not violating. They're not being immoral. They're just being smart and clever. They're not taking advantage of the trust of other people. They're seizing an opportunity. You would do the same in their position. But if somebody else were to do it, that's bad. We don't do that. And they don't really think it's bad. In fact, they might try and hedge it just in case they get caught doing it later. They will take the same stance as the community around them. So Ammon knows that at this time, as of part 1, his involvement is something he can still mitigate and control. He can still try and downplay and discredit Ben before Part 2 comes out. That way, he can control how Part 2 is perceived. This isn't just damage control, this is selective truth-telling. Similar to what they did up to this point.
They just specifically put, especially older adults. Or vulnerable members of her community.
If they're not exploiting anyone, especially older adults, why are they stealing from older adults then? That seems like a weird way to not exploit old adults.
Yeah. When a complex business dispute is reduced to edited social media clips, critical facts are often lost. While we will not litigate this online, which they are currently doing, we want to clarify the core situation.
Alright, so this more narcissist muddying of the waters. Is this a complex business dispute? Yes, but it doesn't have to be. They made it complex, but they're gonna leave that out. Are the clips edited for social media? Of course they are, because you're not gonna put dozens of hours of unredacted footage up there. Yeah. Critical facts are often lost. And by this, a narcissist doesn't actually mean truly critical facts. What they mean is that when certain details are not cut out, the focus tends to be on the things that make them look bad instead of what they want you to see. Their narrative becomes such a small portion of what's shared, or such an insignificant portion of what matters to everyone else that they choose to believe that the facts that make what they're doing understandable, reasonable, and okay to everybody else must have been removed. Why do they assume this? Because it's what they do. If I don't remember it, it didn't happen. And they assume that's how everyone thinks. Everyone leaves out the details that are inconvenient to them. Everybody has a bias. There's no such thing as an objective viewpoint when perception is reality. This is why the narcissist mindset is so dangerous but also so compelling. Because to any reasonable person, they're right. No one person has all the facts, and everybody has emotions, everybody has a goal. They present it so reasonably, but they're hiding the poison that is their perspective. It's not perception is 9/10 of reality. No, no, no. Perception is reality, and if they can control your perception, they have controlled your reality. That's how they see it. But they can't say it that way because then you would perceive them for what they are. Let's continue. Oh, also, we will not litigate this online. While we will not litigate this online, we want to clarify the core situation. I will clarify this narcissist speak real quick. What it is saying is, we are going to tell you our official narrative once more, and we are not going to discuss the details with random strangers on the internet who may or may not be confronting us on some of the specifics we don't want to talk about, because we can't defend those specifics.
Okay, so I see what they're saying. So right now they're saying this is all a big misunderstanding. Ben has edited these clips to make us look bad, but we're not really bad. Now, for the rest of this article, we're going to share our side that Ben left out, is what I'm assuming they're saying here, right?
That is the narrative they are spinning for other people, Ben. You are with it so far. And yes, Ben's confusion as to why they're doing this is a part of why I knew I needed to start this series, because this isn't a mystery to me. All of this makes perfect sense. They're, again, not trying to tell their side of the story to Ben. They're, again, not trying to talk this through with Ben. They've given up on Ben at this point in time. Ben needs to shut the fuck up and disappear. That's where they're at with him. If they could kill him and get away with it, they would.
Sounds like it.
Maybe we were wrong. Maybe Bricks and Minifigs is right, and we should give them a chance to share their side of the story. So let's see their side. So it says, the reality of the consignment claim. Much of the online narrative centers around a private consignment arrangement allegedly made by a former Salem store. It is vital to understand that Bricks and Minifigs Corporate was not a party to this alleged agreement, nor were subsequent franchises who took the ownership of the Salem location after the former owners were removed. So
why did you open your mouth, Brandon?
So Bricks and Minifigs does have a point here. The previous owner, according to Bricks and Minifigs franchise agreement, they're not supposed to do consignments. They're supposed to buy the Legos and then sell them. So I think the old owner broke the rules. However, this does not. Basically, this is called a whataboutism, is what they call it in politics.
Or, as I've come to say it, layers of redundancy. This is a narcissistic deflection. Whataboutism is a nice little buzzword, but narcissists just do this all the freaking time. It's like, this is one of the go-to weapons that a narcissist will use. Don't look at me, don't look at what I did. Answer for this other charge I'm throwing at you instead. Anything to take your attention off of the conversation at hand.
Basically, Bricks and Minifigs is saying, well, to take the focus off the bad thing we did, look, the previous owner also did something bad too. So because she did something bad, it just makes both of them bad. It doesn't make...
Especially after the sign incident on their closed store. Any normal businessman with any proper business sense would have looked into this, gotten Brian his Legos, made a big PR campaign about trying to make amends in the public eye, and would have given him back his Legos and then reimbursed him. They would have gotten so many more sales, gotten so much more goodwill. But this is a narcissist. They can't admit that they did it wrong because that was the point. The point was to get those Legos. All of this for some colored plastic. You should have given him his Legos, Josh. Now you're fired. Because Ammon threw you under the fucking bus. Let's continue.
This doesn't prove their innocence. But we'll keep reading. Maybe this is just the first paragraph. Corporate did not assign, approve, or authorize this arrangement, which is further proof of why they should not have the Legos in the store. If this is something that the brand doesn't do, if Bricks and Minifigs doesn't do consignment deals, then they should just give the Legos back, right? There's no reason for these Legos to be in their store. They didn't pay for them. They're not doing a business deal with Brian anymore, so just give them back.
And by all technicality, those were not the store's stock. They were never the store's property. So when they came in and claimed that, in the effort of claiming that as their store stock, doesn't matter if they knew about the consignment, doesn't matter if they approved of it. That was not theirs to give. Since it wasn't their material to give away, they in fact don't have a right to keep it in their storerooms because it is legally not their property. But because this is civil, they thought they could bully Brian into silence and make all of this disappear. They know they have it. They've probably even sold quite a bit of it. But to own up to the fact that they have it would be to admit they did something wrong. And they can't do that. Hopefully, I keep talking about how we'll find out what happened to the previous store owner, and we haven't yet. I think this might be the video. I hope it is, because I've been building that up for a while. I'll spoil it a little bit here. Based on the evidence that I've seen, the claims that were made by Bricks and Minifigs from the previous owner, they are saying that she had her franchise agreement terminated because she was using her franchise to launder money from heroin dealing. Where have we heard accusations of heroin before? Right, from Josh's call to the police about Ben. So, why else would she be going out of the country? She must have been dealing drugs. Very, very reasonable narrative. So now they're bullying her. And then once they finish bullying her, they can bully Brian, because the only other person who knew about this was Brian. That's two individuals that they can bully who they know can't fight back. Because what, you're going to fight it and risk getting charged with drug trafficking? Of course you're not. So, pressure her out. And to me, it doesn't... If she really was dealing in heroin, that's interesting. And it might have just inspired them to accuse Ben of the same. And in fact, for all I know, she really was. And she was hiding heroin inside the Minifigs. If she was hiding heroin in the Legos, I am gonna laugh my ass off. But that's a separate conversation for another time. Because what it would mean is that if she had been doing that, there's a non-zero chance that they thought that they were getting a supply of heroin that they could do dirty deals on the side with. But no, that's speculation too far. Ignore that. Either way, they bullied her out under accusation she was using her business to launder money from her heroin dealing. And so in that way, that's what's going on here.
Easy solution. Franchisees operate independent businesses. While they must follow system standards, the franchisor does not automatically inherit responsibility for private, unauthorized agreements a local owner may enter into.
By that virtue, you also don't automatically get ownership of all property in the store if it wasn't yours in the first place. If I left my phone on the counter the night that I left when you kicked me out, that does not become store property. I am allowed to return and reclaim my phone. That's what this was. And I swear the only reason they're not letting them do anything about it, the only reason they're not dragging it out, I'm going to make sure my video is working. Does the audio on the video working? We need to make sure that. I don't want to get this far. No, it's been. Okay, good. You don't get to just sell my phone now that I left it there when you kicked me out, because it's not your phone. It is still my private property. Same thing is true of these Lego sets. But if you did end up selling my phone, then it would be a civil matter because it wasn't yours to sell and I'm entitled to the profits you made, or a replacement phone. That would be a civil matter I have to resolve, and that's what they've been hiding behind before Ben showed up.
Basically, corporate saying, hey, we can't control our franchises,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And then, but the problem is when you go to the franchises, they say, well, corporate told us to do this.
You're supposed to be getting hold of corporate.
In the security camera footage, corporate's the one taking over the store.
Seeking facts over narratives. Serious claims require serious evidence. I do agree. We both
Yes,
agree with
yeah.
that. We have repeatedly asked for the original documents and undoctored recordings that support these accusations. So
I want you to pay attention. They looked into this stuff and were convinced, forthright, that Ben was making fake legal claims, was making fake raffles. They want proof of the original documents that they don't think are real. And probably including the raffle, because if they admit that these are their Legos, they are in fact criminally liable for stealing from a state raffle, because Ben did go through the proper paperwork for that. So if they ever admit to that, they are on the hook for that charge. And I don't know if they know that, but I think that doesn't matter to them. They're not really concerned about what will happen to them in this moment. War has been declared. They are trying to punish Ben. So what they want is every single document he's done according to this, all of the unedited footage, so they can not try and get the real truth, but to look for evidence they can twist to paint Ben as Johnny Somali. And it doesn't matter how out of context they want to present it. That's what they want. They want that. Exactly. It's one of those things where even the second part here, selective social media posts and investigative style videos are not a substitute for complete records and legal agreements that govern the rights of all involved parties. And I think a part of Ammon is thinking, if we can just get a handle on the contract, point out again that it isn't our signature, we can make this disappear. Or at least paint him as somebody harassing innocent people. He's trying to get all the information he can to reinforce and press his narcissistic narrative that he had nothing to do with this, he wasn't responsible, and that this is all Ben being an ass.
yeah, isn't that funny? Didn't we try to get the evidence over to you guys?
Yeah, did I remember that time when I had all the evidence in my hand and I walked into the store and I just said, hey, here's all the evidence. I'm not judging you. Let's figure this out. And what did they do?
Can we have like a clip playing right now?
Yeah, let's roll the clip.
Well, so here's still all of the Lego sets you guys still have.
I don't have anything to do with that, and I don't want that. You can go ahead and leave, and I'm gonna ask.
Oh, but you didn't bring it to corporate. Oh, wait, you did bring it to corporate, and they said you have to bring it up with the store. And where's the store owner? Because Amanda's not the store owner, she's the manager. Right. The store owner's number had been scrubbed from all records. You were never supposed to be able to get to Josh. You were never supposed to be able to get to him. To the point in time where you actually hear him in the body cam footage saying, I'm not responsible for what somebody else signed, to the cops, not even to Ben. He won't even talk to Ben. He got him bounced off his property. You were never supposed to have access to him. You were never supposed to have access to Ammon. You were supposed to get the hint and leave them alone. But now we're in war. At the time of this announcement, Ammon was already on a warpath.
One more time, this is the last time. I do not
Well-
want that. You're not handing me anything.
I tried for a long time just to get her to look at this contract.
Why do you think your friend would be entitled to our inventory?
What's his? He owns the Legos.
Huh? He doesn't own the Legos.
Well, yeah, we have a contract. He does own them.
No, bro, are you an idiot? Are you stupid?
Josh, the police is showing up right now.
Oh, that was a good clip. I guess.
This is what narcissists don't think about. If you document everything they've done, then the moment they try and take their narrative public, you have their own words and actions that go against the official word. You have them, when they think they're in private, when they think nobody will ever know, saying whatever it takes to get what they want. Things they will forget they said later. They will forget they said later. Why? Because it did what it was supposed to, and then it was supposed to go away.
This clip is them begging for us to give them evidence.
It sounds like it.
And that we were the ones that refused to give them the
It
evidence.
makes no sense. They literally go, we have repeatedly asked. Okay, that's bullshit. Selective social media posts and investigative style videos are not a substitute for the complete records and legal agreements that govern the rights of all involved parties.
Okay, let's put all the evidence right here. We got the consignment deal. We got the full inventory list that the Bricks and Minifigs store made that shows which sets were sold, which sets are still in the store, and which sets Brian has not been paid for. This was an inventory list made by the store. Here's the security camera footage of corporate knowing there was a consignment deal.
These are ones that he has not been paid his percentage yet. And if I don't have the tickets, I won't know how much I need to pay.
That's a business thing and not necessarily yours. If they can only business, he takes on all that. That's not their part.
Here's all the metadata timestamped pictures of the sets that were still in the store when the owner got kicked out. I've printed all of this proof out and tried to give it to them, and this was their response.
You could go ahead.
Really?
So you could go ahead and
Amanda doesn't know any better. But even if she did, do you know what Josh would have done? Tried to ask you how you got this evidence, shut down the use of this evidence, try and prevent it from ever being used against him, and basically thank you for revealing the potential vulnerabilities in their system while they shut you the frick up and find a way through their lawyers to make sure none of this can be used against them. Or beg you to take it to court where they can punish you for finding it.
leave now, or I will call the police for arrest.
Which is what we saw in the other videos.
Well, I'm not harassing you.
Wow, that was a really good clip.
Yeah.
It shows exactly what they wanted, which was obviously to talk to you. If a legitimate claim exists, there are established legal and dispute resolution processes to handle it fairly. Attempting to force a business outcome through public pressure, especially on unrelated stores and employees, is not a productive or fair path forward.
Yeah. It's unfortunate you put them in the line of fire, Ammon. You left them in the fucking dark. You sent them out there telling them, oh, this guy is crazy, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, we don't have his stock. You fed them all the right lines and made yourself sound so reasonable, and in doing so you put innocent people in harm's way, and you can't accept that. This isn't Ben's fault. You could have just repaid the man. You could have given them the Legos. This all would have vanished, and if you were an honest businessman, that's what you would have done. But you know you're not honest. You know you weren't counting on this. You weren't counting on a real-life anime character showing up and busting open your schemes. That's why you have to make an example, why you want Ben's head on a pike. All of your public statements are going to be making you sound like you're just a businessman being harassed over something that has nothing to do with you. And you're gonna do your best to make this right behind closed doors because the family's been through enough. You're not clever. You're using the same tactics all narcissists do. Wherever this stuff starts going out into the public eye, we isolate the people who hear about it, we feed them our narrative, which sounds so much more reasonable, we bury the evidence and say that evidence doesn't count, that evidence discredited, that evidence was made just to hurt me because you think that's true, and you will fabricate additional leverage that you need in order to convince everybody that this man is the danger that you feel he is. It's classic narcissistic gaslighting of everybody. They're poisoning the entire water supply. And they know that. If they're not poisoning the well, they're poisoning the whole water supply. The whole lake is intended to be poisoned with this.
Basically what they're saying is, let's figure this out the legal way. Well, we did what he said, actually. We did sue him, and we won. And then they didn't like the legal way. Bricks and Minifigs was the one who didn't want to do it the legal way.
Correction. He sued the wrong entity. But at this stage, he had already filed a personal lawsuit. One they refused to have served to them. One that they would not go to court over. and therefore, he's still correct. He might not have known at this time that he'd been declined. He might not have caught that yet, at the time of this recording anyway. But it doesn't matter. By this stage, Ben had already filed personal lawsuits against each of them. Against Josh and Brandon. Not Ammon, but against Josh and Brandon. So, yeah, he's still trying the legal way.
Do you know why?
In fact, as of the release of part 1 of this video, Ben is completely convinced that the legal system will not work for him because he's already currently hiding in Mexico.
Because this is what happened when we won. Dang it! They closed down their entire store because Bricks and Minifigs did not want to do the legal way. Bricks and Minifigs stores is a private business with the right to protect their premises. We will continue to support our owners in prohibiting disruptive conduct or harassment. It's not about silencing criticism. It is about, oh, they're not trying to silence criticism. I feel like Bricks and Minifigs is doing whatever they can to silence criticism, and if you don't believe...
Remember, if you provide evidence of what they're doing, they will deny it. They will lie directly to your face that they're doing anything wrong. If they can't outright discredit it, they will just deny that it's real. So while they are absolutely, especially at this stage, trying to silence Ben, trying to shut him up, trying to make an example out of him, as we've already seen, they have to tell the public that that's not what's going on. And they still think, because only part 1 was released at the time they released this statement, because this was a response to part 1, they think that's still an option. They think they can still control public perception of the rest of what's happened, and make clear that this isn't about silencing him, even though they have already told the police department that this is about silencing him.
Believe me, watch part 2.
Moving forward together, our position remains simple. Bricks and Minifigs Corporate was not a party to the unauthorized Salem consignment agreement.
Wait, but they were a party in the theft of the Legos.
Any legitimate claims should be resolved through the proper legal channels where facts can be evaluated fairly, and we already did that.
Yep.
And here's where we get to the narcissistic explanation for normal, reasonable people. Again, they're not trying to talk to Ben. They're trying to talk to everybody else. And the reasonable thing is, hey, if you think we stole the Legos, we can be sued for that, and you would be able to get the property, and that's the proper way. And they're hiding from the public that their intent would be to drag that out in court, make it as expensive as possible, and punish these people for trying to get their Legos back. What's more than that, listen to how this is phrased. Any legitimate claims, which means if you don't have a legitimate claim, you wouldn't get what you wanted, that's part of their thinking, should be resolved through the proper legal channels, so sue us, where the facts can be evaluated fairly. Now, fair to a narcissist is whatever aligns with what they believe is true. And so I can tell you exactly what they want to have happen. They want to be officially sued through proper big claims court, so that way they can throw Crystal under the bus as of the time of this, because remember, this was released back when part 1 was the first thing to go viral. So they can throw Crystal under the bus. And then, if that doesn't work, they can say, well, Brandon was not speaking on behalf of corporate, and they can throw Brandon under the bus. And if Brandon flips and goes, well, Josh told me to do it, Josh can be thrown under the bus. Again, since all of this fell apart, Ammon has thrown Brandon and Josh under the bus. Which means, weirdly enough, Josh and Brandon are probably the greatest allies we can have moving forward, because they were just absolutely thrown under the bus by Ammon. Ammon is desperate, and he is bailing water at an immense rate. He went through 2 layers of redundancy at the same time, trying to wash his hands of this. Because as far as everything's concerned, Ben is attacking Josh and Brandon. Not Ammon, the man who is currently responsible for the ongoing lawsuit against Ben. the man whose narcissistic injury is so powerful, he wants to make sure Ben never does anything like this with his business again.
Yep, the facts can be evaluated. We put all the documents on the screen.
We ask our fans and creators to consider the human impact of the content they share.
And here's where Ammon does it again, throwing innocent people under the bus. Think about all the innocent staff who don't know any better that you're hurting by digging into what I did. He's playing on the sympathy response of reasonable people.
Fairness is a two-way street. It requires looking at the full picture and respecting the rights of unrelated small business owners and their staff.
Think of the children. It's another common tactic among the narcissists. They've put themselves in a position where if you go after them, you're going to hurt innocent people. That's intentional. That is by design. That is a part of how they do it. And it's how they play the victim narrative further. You're the bad guy. You're hurting innocent people to get what you want. This is why if you are in an arms race with a narcissist, you cannot act like a reasonable person. You have to face tank all of the reputational destruction and everything they throw your way, like Superman walking through a hail of bullets. Should you somehow win, everybody will understand that their injuries were from the ricochet. But you have to be willing to see it to completion, because for as long as you're using half measures in this arms race, participating is only hurting everyone but the intended target. This is why I recommend not to get involved in them in the first place. Do not fight a narcissist. Excuse yourself, remove yourself from the situation, and figure it out backwards from there.
Shouldn't they care about people below them?
This doesn't say how they're moving forward. Moving forward should be, let's give Brian his Legos back, right?
Yeah. We love the Lego community and the creativity it fosters.
Well, they're making the Lego community look really bad, so until they give Brian his Legos back, they're just going to keep making the Lego community look terrible.
We thank those who have waited for the facts before accepting rumors as truth.
I think...
Discredit the source. Paint them as no more than rumors from a money-grubbing YouTuber. Because if you acknowledged what was happening as truth, well, then you'd have to admit you did something wrong.
What they're trying to say by this line is that they have the facts and we have the rumors, right? Because we're just trying to promote some narrative when they're the ones that have the facts. But if you look at the situation, it kind of...
And this is where Ben gets confused. Because yes, he's right. That is exactly what they're saying. It doesn't matter if it's right. It doesn't matter if it's correct. That is what they're saying.
Seems like we're the ones that have the facts. I mean, we put all the facts up on the screens, and he now has a narrative with no evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
because he doesn't need the evidence. He needs to get people focused on how crazy you're being. Think back to what we said about whataboutism. It is the bread and butter of the narcissistic toolkit. It's not about what we did wrong. Don't look into the contract that we may or may not have fudged. No. Look at Ben. Look at how far he went just to harass innocent people. They are actually trying to, again, poison the water supply. It doesn't matter what facts and evidence you can provide if they can prove you're doing it to hurt them. Not out of love, not out of doing kindness for things, but specifically just to cause pain to innocent people. Because it doesn't matter if what you're doing is fact-based. It doesn't matter if you're right. If they can make it so you're hurting innocent people, then you are the villain by default. That's how they think. That is them controlling the reality of other people by manipulating their perception. And if they can get enough people to share that perception, that might as well be reality.
It's like 4 or 5 paragraphs with no evidence whatsoever. We thank those who have waited for the facts before accepting rumors as truth and who continue to support their local Bricks and Minifigs franchise stores.
Okay, here we go. Because this matter involves active legal issues, we will provide further updates only when it's appropriate and legally permissible to do so.
And this is how the narcissist gets out of it. The trap they made for themselves. They could have presented all their evidence here. for the public. They could have made a public statement presenting all their evidence and making a case, but instead they appeal to reason. They appeal to the innocent people getting hurt, and they discredit and disparage the person bringing these accusations. Because if they have to provide evidence, it will become painfully clear what they did and that Ben's not wrong. They can't have that because they need to forget this ever happened, so that it is something that never happened. And they're trying to make sure everybody else ignores the information while they try and get control back.
So basically what they're saying is like, we're not going to respond again.
Because if you look away while they make a frickin' sacrifice and get Ben's head on a pike, well then, they got everything they wanted. Simple as that.
And they're saying it's because we can't legally do it. Their legal issues are with me. Like, we've already been to court, like, I think 3 times. I can share my side. Why can't they share their side? Unless their side would get them in a lot of legal trouble and they could...
Bingo! They can't share their side in full. Because to them, they shouldn't have to. To them, they did nothing wrong. To them, you're the person who needs to explain why you're not letting them get away with it.
Go to jail, I guess, is why...
Because if they don't remember it, it didn't happen.
Actually, it makes sense now why they can't share their side. Bricks and Minifigs is saying, yes, we have all of Brian's Legos in our store. No, we didn't pay for them, but we would, and their answer for that is, we would never try to exploit an old man. But it seems like that's what they're doing. They're exploiting an old man. So I think a better response would be, explain why do you have these Legos in your store without paying for them? That would be an explanation, right? Like, that would be good. But they won't be able to
A narcissist won't ever do that.
do that because what they would be doing is they're explaining what stealing is, and that's what Bricks and Minifigs did. And especially not just stealing, but stealing from an old person, which is who Bricks and Minifigs likes to steal from the most. There's also one more thing. So there's this other guy. It's like there's a Lego store like a couple blocks. It's like literally like right down the street from Bricks and Minifigs. It's called Bricks and Beyond. And this guy's getting a bunch of hate for my video because people are confusing his store with the Bricks and Minifigs store. Yeah, but the problem is this guy runs like a super ethical Lego store. And should we give him a call right now? Actually,
It's very similar.
Okay, so this video, let's see if we can't turn it off while I get the everything all sorted out. But that's the end of the narcissistic angle for me to assess with that. So what we have here is them trying to control the narrative. And so we have how they're presenting it to the public. This next video, if it works, Alright, I'm going to reset the video here, make sure it's where it needs to be. So while he's making this public statement as to what's going on with that, don't mind that, my TV is broken. There you go. So while they're making these public statements to poison the water supply, they're doing this privately, and this is what I mean by I think the employees didn't know. I don't think Amanda was aware, because this is what they're getting inside of corporate.
Corporate Bricks and Minifigs sent out an email to all of their lower franchises, basically instructions on how to deal with our documentary we made about them. And we got a hold of this email. The email leaked online.
And now we're just going to read through this. I haven't seen this at all. So, dear franchisees, as most of you are aware, our network is currently facing a coordinated negative PR attack stemming from a former franchisee's consignment dispute in Salem, Oregon. A YouTuber, Reckless Ben, has released multiple videos amplifying this narrative, which has unfortunately led to harassment calls, review bombing, and store disruptions across our network.
Because of course it would, Ammon. Of course it would. This man had a viral sign accusing you of stealing from old people, saying you wouldn't pay out after having lost over that theft, and has now released a public video explaining your exact tactics, showing video of you talking about it, showing videos of Josh talking about it, showing the security footage you didn't know they had, or at least if you did, you hoped nobody'd ever know about. but you can't admit to having done something wrong. Because if you did, then it happened, and you'd have to do something about it. You can't have that. Let's continue.
So right away, I like how they say it's coordinated. They're saying like, oh, all the big streamers are working together now, and like all these people that are talking about it, it's all a big conspiracy against us.
So he goes to a franchise Lego store in Salem, Kaiser, Oregon. It's called Bricks and Minifigs.
Them stealing multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Legos from at least Brian. And a video by Reckless Ben, a political...
By the way, I want to make a brief note. Ammon, I don't know if it was you that advertises over $200,000. I don't know. I don't really care. You do understand that saying, well, that was just the promotional price. Yeah? Like, yeah, when it's sold, yeah, especially if you're doing it on consignment, you guys want a large enough chunk to make the rental space on your shelves worth it, and so that's part of the whole point, right? Is to cover, like, you get your cut, the owner still gets a reasonable price on his, and everything's good. So yeah, the promotional price is going to be much higher, so you guys can get an even fair share. But you need to understand that by making that the promotional price, it makes for a good tagline when you're going after it, because that's your company admitting to a value for it that is of note.
Corruption company stealing $200K from an old man.
The reality of the situation, though, is that Bricks and Minifigs did such a terrible thing that a lot of people want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's not like we're all coordinating to take down Bricks and Minifigs. It's just Bricks and Minifigs did such an evil action that everyone on the internet wants to weigh in. Oh wait, one more thing. I forgot to address where we're at right now. So we are definitely in America. As you can see behind me, we are in St. Louis, Kansas City. Basically, we found out that if you have a warrant for your arrest and you flee the country, that's actually super illegal.
Exactly. We're 100% not in Mexico at all right now.
As you can see, and you can tell exactly where we are by the background, the arch in the background.
I mean, you need to understand the whole point was to stop him from making more videos on this so that he could get ahead of the whole thing. As long as Ben's free, Ammon can't say or do anything without being responded to. Ben, depending on whether or not the police want to enforce this warrant after all of this has come out, Ben might want to never actually return to the United States. Because he fled the country, but what else was he supposed to do? He didn't know what he was being charged for. He had no idea how to defend himself. And this was entirely done just to stop him from doing what he's currently doing.
Want to give everyone a clear recap of exactly what corporate is doing behind the scenes to protect you guys. What we can expect regarding a life cycle of this situation, and how we can work together as a team to move on from this defense to offense. No longer are we just going to try to defend our actions, we're going to try and take Reckless Ben down. Dang. So, to move up,
I'm going to reread this one because I spaced out for a minute there. It's the trauma response. You go through Narcissist enough, and then you zone out every now and again. Sorry I have to double back on this.
Exactly where we are by the background, the arch in the background. We want to give everyone a clear recap of exactly what corporate is doing behind.
Alright, so we're doing more controlling of the narrative, right? So we already had the public display where he's basically telling everybody his side of the story, discrediting Ben, making it all rumors, saying none of this is what it says. It is all while trying to throw Crystal under the bus. Now, inside the system, to the innocent people he's using as human meat shields, he gives this. Hey, I want to tell you that we're going to protect you. And part of his protection of them is ignorance, because if they don't know what's happened, they are not actually technically responsible and therefore are innocent and are not in danger. Here's what we can expect regarding the life cycle of a situation, how we can work together as a team to move forward from defense to offense. It's clear the narrative has gotten out of Ammon's control. But he's going back to what worked last time, turning his employees into the first line of defense and the alert system for trying to shut this down. He's going to keep all of them in the dark as to the specific details as to what's going on. He's going to reassure them that anything they might have already seen is all lies and slander. And he's going to give them a narrative to feed to anybody who comes to their store. A narrative they will feed as though it is honest and sincere because they don't know what's going on.
Behind the scenes to protect you guys. What we can expect regarding a life cycle of this situation and how we can work together as a team to move on from this defense to offense. No longer are we just going to try to defend our actions. We're going to try and take Reckless Ben down.
Or actively discredit him, yes.
So now we have the leaked documents of how they plan on taking me down.
While we will not litigate this matter in the media, we are taking aggressive action.
Aggressive is correct. Ammon is, like I said, head on a pike mad. He wants Ben gone. Corporate was not involved in the specific local consignment issue. This is him, again, denying his involvement in the whole thing, keeping him clear so he can throw Brandon and Josh under the bus. And we are holding firm on the facts. We will not litigate this matter to the media as the more interesting one. Because, while he says he has the facts on his side, and there are facts that, if looked at in isolation, make him entirely innocent, which is what he's doing. If I don't remember the rest of it, then it didn't happen, so he's innocent in his own mind. Yep, and that's the thing. So it's like he's saying, look, we're not going to broadcast what we know, because what they know is that they did something that they basically are admitting in this, that they can't talk about this in the media because they can't argue what Ben is saying is incorrect. But they are holding that Ammon was not involved in the agreement, which is true. And he's holding on to that fact as his defense, which means he doesn't want to talk about this more than he has to, so he can hold the line on his specific narrative. That's if he's a narcissist.
Behind the scenes.
Why not do it in the media, you know? If they have nothing to hide and they actually are the innocent doing it, actually, don't we have them on video saying they're going to be taking the consignment over?
If taking on the business, he takes on all that consignment.
Brandon might have been a representative of corporate during this shutdown, but he wasn't there as a representative of corporate. He was there as part of the muscle and one of the layers of redundancy. Right now we have 2 layers of redundancy in this camera shot. There's Crystal, who they're throwing under the bus, and there's Brandon. We already know because Brandon and Josh lost their jobs over this.
That person on the phone is actually one of the people from the corporate offices that's
Big local consignment issue, and we are
consignment.
If taking on the business, he takes on all that consignment.
That person on the phone is actually one of the people from the corporate offices that says, we are taking over the consignment now.
firm on the facts.
I kind of feel bad. We have the facts. We're not going to show you the facts, but we have the facts.
Yes. I'm going to back up on this because this is actually very accurate.
Of these things that are happening, and then corporate saying, hey, all this evidence, you can't believe it because we have the facts. We're not going to show you the facts, but we have the facts. And that was
Yep. And do you want to know the smokescreen they throw up? The same one that Josh tried. What's more reasonable? That we stole $100,000 of Legos from an old man's family and then bullied them into silence? I mean, we've been so good to you guys. Or is it more likely that there's some YouTuber from out of town that came specifically to make everybody's lives miserable for views and for a quick buck?
franchise owner, you have to think, okay, do I believe the side with all the evidence and get fired? Because if they take our side with the evidence, then they get fired. Or do I just take the side that claims they have the facts but don't have the facts, and then this way I don't get fired? Yeah, so...
Do I take the side that has edited videos that might not be accurately representing the situation, or do I take the side of my bosses who have such a pleasant and reasonable explanation? This is the poison of the narcissist.
Corporate's kind of putting all their franchises in a really bad situation right
Yep, human shields.
now, and it kind of sucks because it's like, I actually like Bricks and Minifigs. I think there's a lot of innocent franchises out there that...
There are, and that's the point. Ammon keeps them in the dark, lets them play soldier for him with their zeal and trust in what he's saying and doing, and he gets to continue to pretend nothing happened.
Didn't do anything, but corporates just screwed saying like, we don't care about our franchises. We're gonna screw over all our franchises. It kind of sucks that corporate's doing that, and we're trying to help corporate do the right thing right now so the innocent franchises don't get screwed,
But that's the point, Ben. The innocent franchises getting screwed is supposed to stop you from doing this. You're supposed to think of the children, Ben.
Corporate's just screwing everything up for these innocent franchises right now by doing this. Law enforcement and federal involvement. We are actively working and sharing records with local police, Oregon State Police, the FBI, and USPI.
Here's where we get to something interesting. See, according to that video about the body cam footage, Ben is saying that they're claiming he did bomb threats, which I think this is where Ben did his research and found out why the U.S. Postal Inspection Service is getting involved, as well as why the FBI is involved. Remember, they threatened to kill Amanda was not enough to keep Ben in jail without bail. And also remember, they don't care what they have to say as long as it gets them the results they're after. They wanted him in jail with no bail on a warrant he couldn't get out of, so he couldn't keep talking about this, and all of this would hopefully go away while they punished him away from the public eye. That was their game plan. That's still their game plan.
Yes. So basically, Bricks and Minifigs is getting the FBI involved. Legal action. Our legal team is preparing direct claims and seeking a TRO, a temporary restraining order, to halt the harassment and push this matter.
See, the TRO would have probably been the best thing to do when, he was trying to serve you papers in the first place, Ammon. But that would have been a whole separate thing, and it wouldn't have been proper punishment. By the way, I've looked into this. Temporary restraining orders are oddly easy to get. This would have been a far more reasonable thing than trying to get him a warrant to keep him in jail. It's almost like your priorities are backwards. I like this as well. We are issuing cease and desist demands regarding the unauthorized website they created. Well, they didn't need your authorization. They made their own company. That is their company's website. So, yeah. That's a real company, dumb as it is. If you want to sue them over their logo, you're going to have to, sue them for that. That's going to be illegal. That's going to be a civil matter, not a criminal one. That's not something you can do via TRO or cease and desist. Because they can ignore the cease and desist, and then it becomes a civil matter you have to sue over. So even if you're like, well, they stole our logo, yeah, well, you're going to have to sue over that, which Ben is going to do. Yeah, and right there, this ending here, which is a complete misunderstanding every narcissist has over a TRO. The idea with the TRO is to restrain the behavior and actions that are causing the harassment. Now, narcissists go, look, I feel harassed, I feel threatened. That's because TROs are supposed to stop threatening behavior in the short term while litigation's about to happen. And since they're so easy to get, narcissists go, look, I will get a temporary restraining order, and that'll stop you from doing the things I deem as threatening harassment, and everybody will have to enforce it because the law says I'm right. And they will use it as proof that you're dangerous, even though they don't actually have to prove you're dangerous to get a temporary restraining order. See, it's a valid court order that will get the platforms to remove the content. That's what Ammon believes is true. That is what he believes to be the case. That's not what ended up happening.
To fool it and go, they're like, oh, well, if we can somehow silence them, then we can get away with our crime, is what they're basically saying.
That's not what they're saying, but that is the intent, yes. And yes, I skipped ahead there. I'm trying to get to the next part of the letter, because we're trying to focus on what Ammon is saying to his franchisees through this letter.
And we can see this because in my last...
Let's see.
Weird stuff to try and get my videos taken down, and they said in their last response it wasn't to silence criticism, but that's kind of what it seems like it is. Issuing seasons of
Alright. Yep.
demands regarding unauthorized website. Upset at the fact that we decided to also steal from old people, and Bricks and Minifigs was like, hey, that's our thing. Only we can steal from only ones, and then it is valid court order that will get the platforms to remove the content. Basically what they're saying is everything these guys did in their YouTube video was fair use. It was constructive criticism on how we can be a better company. However, we don't like that they caught us in our illegal act. So the algorithm, so maybe we can go to court.
Well, it was technically legal, because I'm trying to get to the next part of this. Okay.
And find a loophole to take down their video so people don't get mad at us for what we did. That's basically what this paragraph says. So, you want to read the next paragraph?
Platform takedowns. We have...
Alright, so, here's where we get into where this got interesting. We've reached out to Google, YouTube, Patreon, GoDaddy, and Facebook to report the specific pages, video, privacy violations, and coordinated review bombing targeting our stores. See, this is like... They start by saying, like, do you notice the only two things they're actually accusing them of? Privacy violations and coordinating a review bombing of their stores. One of these are saying, don't look too hard at it, private information is on it. And the second one is, we are the victims. That's it. That's really all it is. And do you want to know what the privacy violations are to them? Because I know what a narcissist thinks. It was recording them. Recording them in their antics, documenting them. Be ready for this whenever you document your interactions with a narcissist. Look up the rules in your local area and make sure you're documenting them entirely legally and above board. Because what they will do is they will try and use your methods of data collection on their antics to discredit you. To say, you can't look at those videos because I didn't say you could show them to people. And sometimes that is a valid thing. That's a real thing victims have to do. They got to go, look, you can't just put videos of me out there. I didn't get permission. But for narcissists, they are using what is an understandable protection for an innocent person as a way to completely discredit valid evidence against their behaviors. That's why if you can either, follow the proper rules for recording, even if that involves announcing that you're doing it in front of them, which, by the way, itself, informing somebody, hey, I am informing you that the recording has begun, and since therefore I've informed you that this is now being recorded, anything you say is now above board, you will get one of two responses from a narcissist. They will either shut down completely, thus stopping the harassment, so it can make for a good incentive not to, or they will destroy whatever you are using to record them, which makes for excellent evidence that they're dangerous and you want nothing to do with them. Destroys their narrative either way. Either they have to stop what they're doing because they know it's wrong, because you're getting evidence they're doing it, or they will attempt to destroy the device and the evidence, thus proving that they were up to no good in the first place. If you can do it when they're already wound up about something, you can prey on their ego. They will brag about everything they're doing and beg you to not, similar to Josh, what you saw here. If you think I did something wrong, then sue me. And if you had told him, hey, we're recording this right now, you go, yeah, go right ahead. You go right on ahead and say, you go ahead right ahead and record me. I'm telling you now, you can record this whole conversation because what I'm telling you is, that's not our, we didn't take your Legos, and if you think we did, take us to court. Because he's not thinking in that moment. If you catch them during an extinction burst and you document what they did then, I mostly record the aftermath, like take pictures of the bruises they leave on you, the property they've destroyed, because that's not violating their privacy. That's documenting that things exist in the material world. But that's the privacy violation. They have been recorded saying things that are damning. And therefore, since their face is on there, and it's saying things that they don't want people to know they said, and they want to forget they said, those videos need to come down. And that's their logic. because that was a private conversation where they were trying to intimidate you in private. So yeah, that's what's going on here. And the review bombing of their stores, that's really what they care about, the damage to the brand. They couldn't contain this, and it's starting to damage the brand. In fact, I'm just going to keep jumping ahead for as many as these I can find, because the video itself is not really the point right now. Not at this minute, anyway. Not for this particular video. We will get into why in a minute. I'm trying to actually rush through this so we can have time for the one that I actually wanted to do. Because it's fascinating. We are actively reviewing internal policies to prevent similar transition issues from occurring in the future. This is an entirely empty and meaningless statement. It is to placate people, it is to make them stop asking questions, and for them to not look into the security footage. Not even gonna lie, this is entirely to placate people and get them to leave the matter alone. Looks like this actually happened. Let's keep watching just in case I don't miss anything.
I know what they're talking about right there. So, like, internal policies. I think they're talking about the consignment deals.
That reminds me of another update. So, since the last video, I actually got a hold of the franchise agreement that the previous owner, Crystal, made with corporate. And it says in her contract, it says consignments are allowed.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, as approved by corporate. That's the full document. It says it basically they are allowed if you've run it up corporate, which they're claiming she didn't do.
I mean, that's their number one argument, and it.
And this is where they created a little pocket for themselves. Let me explain the specifics on this one. In their mind, what they did was say, hey, we have put it in the franchisee agreement where you can make consignment if you run it up to us first. Okay? I'm gonna assume, for the sake of steel manning them, that Crystal didn't do that, right? And I'm willing to steel man it because you have somebody on the phone of corporate saying that they're taking on the consignment. So it doesn't matter. At that point in time, it was approved by corporate. According to the people taking over the store. But there's a reason for that. It's because it doesn't matter. Because as long as they are in possession of property that isn't theirs, it doesn't matter how it got there. Their stock isn't their stock. It's Bryant's. So, yes, they are in possession of property that is not theirs, which is the definition of theft. At least if you're not returning it to the rightful owner.
It just says in the contract, like, oh, you can do consignments. So, like, what the heck? Corporate sharing any of this internal legal strategy publicly with customers can severely compromise or damage our active legal case against Ben Schneider.
Sharing any of the legal strategy publicly with our customers can severely compromise and damage our legal case against Ben Schneider. This is because they need to create a reason why they can't talk about the details of the case. And, to a reasonable person, talking about the details of the case, compromising the case, yeah, that checks out. That's normal for a reasonable person. But the details that they're trying, this is a way so they can hide the fact that they are entirely banking on destroying Ben's reputation in this court case. They are not going for evidence-based anything other than that was Crystal's agreement. That was Crystal's agreement, and Brandon and Josh were stupid for saying we would take on the case. That is Ammon's current game plan. Once he has deflected all blame away from himself, which is why he threw Brandon and Josh under the bus very recently, as I covered in my last video. Once he's thrown them under the bus, he can wash his hands of this whole thing. He has his scapegoats. He's gone through all his layers of redundancy. Ammon will... he will absolutely shed his tail as often as he has to get all the blame on anyone but himself. Doesn't matter if it was brought to him directly. Doesn't matter any of this stuff. Because it's not Ben's business. This is between him and Ben personally now. And Ammon has enough layers of redundancy to claim he wasn't involved. Which means once he's washed his hands of this, he can go after Ben for damaging his business, because he is CEO. Now, if Ben is smart, he will also pin the blame on Brandon and Josh and go, look, all of my statements and claims were in fact validated by you when you fired them. And the fact that you were willing to acknowledge that you had them and to try and seek a resolution with Brian means my claims that you stole them are valid, because you are in possession of property that is not yours. Now, how it got that way doesn't matter. He can sit here and go, I never defamed you. There was some hyperbole, but this isn't defamation. This whole situation was so bad, you fired the employees that admitted to having done it. So, Ben might have an out for these claims, which is why the engineered threats were so important. Because it's not about that anymore. It's about shutting Ben up and making sure he never does this again. Even if Ben gets away with this, he's going to be walking a very tightrope, man. It's going to be one of those situations where there's no telling.
Well, not only did someone share it with a customer, they shared it with me themselves, so boom. And now I'm sharing it with the world, so take that, corporate. What to expect, the outrage cycle.
Based on historical data and export crisis management research, there's a typical cycle to online outrage. Understanding this timeline helps us manage.
I'll translate the complex speech into narcissist for you. If we can manage how we look for long enough, we can memory hold this whole thing and then go back to pretending it never happened. It's the go-to technique for narcissists.
Expectations and maintain stability. Initial wave.
Like mathematical with this, like we have calculated every controversy.
Okay.
Current phase.
Okay, initial wave, current phase. Peak intensity typically lasts 3 to 7 days after major videos drop. While the spike in harassment and calls is sharp, it quickly loses steam as online attention naturally shifts. We believe we are currently at or past the peak of the first wave.
I think they sent this out when it had only like 100,000 views on it,
And now he has over 1 million subscribers. He's not wrong, but I think he underestimated just how insane this is, and just how outlandish his exposing his outlandish behavior has only made this age poorly, because he underestimated how much Ben documented this and how much evidence he had behind him.
now it's like 1.5 million views or something. Like and every day it just keeps getting even more views. So corporate, your math is wrong.
Court filing refresh. When we formally file our legal actions, expect a short, renewed spike. Another 3 to 7 days of heightened noise.
They're like, hey, our lawsuit is so garbage, there's gonna be outrage is what they're saying.
Yeah, so just be prepared for it. The opposing side will likely frame our legal defense as silencing the little guy.
Well,
even though that's actively what you're doing and what you admitted to doing in this letter. This is a normal, expected reaction, but it is temporary. Strategic patience until filing protects our legal position. With the courts closed for the holiday, the soonest we can file these actions is Tuesday. We will give an update when we have officially filed, but know that it can take a few days for the court to process this and take any action. Now, I want to clarify this. As far as I can tell, Ben got what he wanted here. There's still the criminal charges should he ever come back. That's the whole point of the criminal stalking. That was the whole point of the warrant. The warrant keeps him out of town, and they think they've got Ben occupied or at least on his back foot. They are now going, since he tried to escape the criminal prosecution route, they're going to try and settle this in civil court. They might even be doing it in criminal court. This might be a continuation of that. Either way, This is them saying, don't think too hard about what we're doing. Just understand that, of course, he's going to play the victim. You know, projection, because they're currently playing the victim. And I know it looks bad, like we're attacking just some small-time YouTuber. But that's normal. They're the reason we're getting harassment. And then we can just say we're not silencing little guy, we're punishing Johnny Somali. That's the general idea.
If it's not silencing the little guy, what is it?
This is a normal, expected reaction, but it is...
Has just decided to make this go on for like at least 2 more years, because that's how long lawsuits take. So I guess we have...
And that's intentional as well. Remember what they said, drag it out.
Content for the next 2 years on this.
What they say, they said 3 to 7 days is the heightened noise. Now the noise is going from 3 to 7 days to 2 years, and that's all corporate's fault. So you guys are just screwing yourselves at this point. Decay fades 2 to 4 weeks. Most online outrage fades significantly within a month, assuming no major new fuel.
You should have given him the Legos, Josh.
Do they think this is my only video on them? Like, we have at least like 6... Residual mentions may linger in niche Lego and other online communities for 1 to 2 months, but day-to-day operations will normalize much faster. Long-term recovery, 1 to 3 months. Reputation stabilizes. They think their reputation is going to stabilize.
Okay.
Day-to-day operations will normalize much faster.
Yep, no, he's not wrong. But we're gonna... This one I want to break down, because this is how the narcissist sees it in their little paradise world. I don't know why they cut this out, because it's actually one of the more important aspects to understanding why narcissists operate the way they do. Reputation stabilizes as facts from legal proceedings emerge, evidence of due process is made visible, and our franchise model, corporate non-involvement in the specific consignment, sways neutral observers over time. So what they're admitting right here that they're poisoning the water supply. And let me explain it in breakdown terms so you can understand. Their goal is stated right at the front. Reputation stabilizes. They want this memory hold. They want this gone. They want no one to remember that this is what happened. They want this to be just some lies made up by a YouTuber. How are they planning on getting there? Facts from legal proceedings emerge. So, this is what they're fishing for with the evidence, the documentation. They're looking for things they can use to prove that they didn't do anything wrong. Evidence of due process is made visible. Namely, we tried arresting him, we tried handling the stalking. Like, in fact, even the facts from legal proceedings come in here, because if they can prove he was stalking them and harassing them for a quick buck, which is their goal, that's their game plan to discredit him, and then they go, look, and we went through all the right channels, we did all we could to stop him, and we were doing this all above the board, even though everything they did was under the table. And our franchise model, parentheses, corporate non-involvement in the specific consignment, this is the detail they hinged the entire opening incident on. The thing they want you guys to see. This is the hill they are dying on. Corporate wasn't involved in this consignment. Therefore, corporate is under no obligation to repay the family, because we weren't involved. Doesn't matter what somebody on the phone on corporate said to the previous store owner. What matters is that the official stance is they were not involved in this specific controversial consignment that, yes, when looked at, does seem like they stole from old people. Because functionally, they did. Oh, but corporate wasn't involved, and corporate isn't under any obligation to remedy it. So, corporate didn't, quote-unquote, decide to take this man's Legos. Corporate took over a store that happened to have a man's Legos in it that they were not responsible for returning. It's very, very clever wordplay here. And it's what matters, because normal people will hear this and go, well, I mean, you say corporate's involved, but it was really the last person. You should be bothering the last person, which is what corporate wants people to think. They aren't looking at the fact that corporate could take action to fix this at any time and is actively choosing not to. And what's their end game for how this will memory hole it and stabilize the reputation? We will sway neutral observers over time. Once we've poisoned the water supply, it'll be in everyone's drinking glass before dinner time. Once we've gotten everybody to think Ben's nuts because they see our big corporate statement first, nobody will care about what we did. And our reputation will stabilize. We can memory hole this and pretend it never happened. This is literally the narcissist admitting to what they're doing. We are going to use the legal process to prove that Ben was in this for the money, prove that we are doing things through the legal system, therefore we must be the reasonable ones, and remind everyone that we weren't a part of the consignment agreement in the first place. And by doing all of these things, we will convince people who don't know anything that we're right, don't trust Ben, and we can memory hole it and go back to having a good reputation like none of this happened. That is what they want.
From recovery, 1 to 3 months. Reputation, so hot it is at nighttime and action.
Oh, action items. How you can help. These are the things that the franchisee owners are going to do to make this better.
The marching orders provided by the narcissist. Yep.
Please implement the following immediately.
Nope, let me...
How you can help.
Let's look this over.
These are the things that the franchisee owners are going to do to make this better.
Your compliance and adherence to our recommendations help ensure the best outcomes for this situation, as we hope to limit exposure to our regular customers, partnerships, and communities. Please implement the following immediately. See how they paint this as, oh, we're the good guys, we're trying to protect people, we're trying to make sure the best outcome for all involved comes around. They're trying to play the hero. This sounds really nice on paper. I don't know why they jumped over this, because it speaks a lot to how the narcissist is getting people to take these marching orders. If you adhere to this and you comply with our requests, you're helping all the innocent people in the middle of this fray, and you're helping to protect the innocent. The sooner you can implement it, the better. It's incentivizing it. You get to be the good guy. All you have to do is be our soldier to cover up for our lies. But we won't admit that's what we're doing to you.
Please implement the following immediately. Approved response option.
Okay, approved response options. Strictly do not engage emotionally. Do not comment on this situation online or in person. Train your staff immediately to use only these approved frameworks based on the situation. We understand our customers are smart, and balancing legal caution with our values helps prevent the appearance of corporate avoidance. So, what this is saying, in no uncertain terms, is do not involve yourself in this situation. Train your staff to only say what we tell them to say. We understand our customers are smart, and using these workshopped pre-responses will help to make sure that we avoid any legal troubles and prevent people from getting mad at us. Let's see here. Can we get any of these? Yep, saying corporate was not involved in the actual consignment. Okay.
General frontline staff. Quick casual inquiries. Okay. Causal, yeah, casual. Oh wow, wait.
Quick marching orders for the frontline soldiers.
These are like quotes. These are quotes that they want them to say. Memorize this. Okay, wait, come at me.
That is a separate, independent location, and I don't have any information to share regarding that situation. Stonewalling. Because you need to keep your employees ignorant of what's going on, so they don't, accidentally say something you're liable for. I am unaware of the specific details of that situation and have no comment at this time. Don't participate, don't educate yourself. Shut it down. Don't talk about it. Don't let people hear about it. Just shut it down. We are aware of this. This is for owners and managers. For deeper conversations with regulars or partners, we are aware of the situation involving another independently owned location, and we understand why people are upset and asking questions. While we can't speak to the specifics of an ongoing situation, Bricks and Minifigs does not support behavior that harms trust within our communities. Our local stores remain committed to operating with fairness, transparency, and respect for our customers. More stonewalling, more fog, more smoke bombs. Remain ignorant, owners and managers. Learn nothing of what's going on. Do not educate yourself. Push product and get excited to push next product. Further canned responses are available in the de-escalation playbook. Because yes, you do actually need to know how to de-escalate in customer service, which is just normal. Just normal people. Alright, I think this is where we get into it.
Washing, it's like, hey, instead of thinking for yourselves, just blindly follow what corporate's saying.
Yes.
Without asking any questions. Because if you ask any questions, you get fired.
That's not how they're framing it, but that is what would happen, yes.
Somebody reached out to me yesterday saying they got fired because their friend asked a question on your YouTube channel. Your YouTube
Really?
post asked a question and they got fired.
Innocent people are getting hurt, Ammon, and you don't care.
That's crazy.
They're telling their employees, do not say anything. Like they think, you read the whole thing. They think if they just shut up and stand back and be quiet, it'll blow over. It's like, they don't know Lego fans and they don't know Star Wars fans.
Yeah. This is crazy.
They hired a crisis team.
Social media monitoring.
Extra vigilance is required right now when monitoring your social media. We recommend turning off the ability to comment on your store's social media posts for the time being. Turning off comments on Facebook has to be done on a post-by-post basis. I want you to think about that. They're telling you to shut up and not talk about this. This went from intimidating Brian and intimidating Crystal into intimidating their entire employee network, all while wearing a smile, because that's what narcissists do. We need you to monitor what you're saying and doing so you don't accidentally say something about the situation. This is completely unnecessary. This doesn't need to happen, but it does need to happen for a narcissist. They need total lockstep loyalty. Any comments, any engagement could be a compromise to their stonewall.
Extra vision.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Review monitoring. Monitor your Google.
Balancing criticism, though, Victor. Please instruct your staff. Flag all and see the crime that we committed, which
includes verbatim scripts for. Please use the hyperlinks below to download the following assets we have prepared for you and your team. Crisis de-escalation playbook. The short playbook includes verbatim scripts for handling in-store filming, hostile phone calls, and social media comments. I want to remind you, one of the tactics Ben used was posing as a YouTuber, and at the time of this, they still haven't fully recognized that he was using a spy camera to record most of this. So now nobody can record in the stores. If you feel harassed on the phone, well shoot, here's how you can do that. And then social media, here's how you respond on social media. We understand how stressful and frustrating situations like this can be for you and your staff. Fake compassion and empathy, postured, worked through a workshop and then put out, probably through AI actually, all to fake that they're the good guys, because they need to keep this narrative that they're the good guys and that they are the victims of Ben. Please know that your safety, peace of mind, and protection of your local business are our absolute highest priority. You guys being our human meat shields is our greatest motivation to punish Ben, because if we can use you as meat shields and feign injury over it, we have more leverage to harass Ben with.
because look at how horrible a person he is for destroying these innocent people. Not you for having put them out there, Ammon. Again, speculating. This is only valid if Ammon is in fact a narcissist. I am using this for educational purposes as to narcissistic tactics. And this stuff, this is how narcissists convince people that they actually care about them, when they don't. As we saw already, if you comment on one of these videos as an employee, you will be fired immediately. Your safety, peace of mind, and protection has no concern to them. What is concerning to them is getting rid of these videos. This is a challenging issue, but it is not impossible to overcome. Our franchise model is strong. Most of our stores are thriving, and we are committed to resolving this decisively. Projecting strength. Narcissists need you to think they're in complete control at all times. We are doing everything we can to protect our brand and our online reputation. While the legal process is not always fast, we want to assure you that we have a very strong case against them. A strong case that we can't tell you about, because if we did, it might compromise our legal case. Projecting strength, convincing themselves that this should be an open shut case. Thank you for your resilience. Puff them up. Compliment them. Tell them that they're so brave. How dare they? There you go.
So Minifigs team. Well, that was the email, I guess. That was kind of sick.
All right.
We showed you how to make a response corporate. We would love to hear a response and get the public back on your side. You just got to give the Legos back. The public will be back on your side.
Okay. So that was the narcissistic assessment. And I started skipping through because there's something in particular I've been wanting to build up to. And we're going to make this the next video, if only because, well, it came out recently. It is, by my assessment, far more interesting.
Well, if you've been staying with our coverage so far, you know that we've reached out
We should
to
be good here. Yep.
the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs, to weigh in on the whole situation.
So, this is Fox 5 in DC. This is a local Washington, DC news network. Not a local Oregon network, which we do know his corporate office is in. No. He went straight to DC for this. Because he's working with the FBI, you see. So that's a whole thing that's going on right now. I want you to watch him. First off, I didn't even notice he did it this early, but look at that smirk. You're going to watch that smirk fade as he locks in and tells his side of the story. But look at that smirk. It won't be the last time we see it. I also want to remind you that Josh, when he was telling his version of the story to the police, was also smiling and laughing, once he knew that he had them on his side. Right now, Ammon is under the complete impression that this is not only going to help him control the narrative, but that he is somewhere safe, where he gets to decide what's going to be said.
And a new statement released by the company. Ammon, thank you so much for joining.
Yep, you bet.
All right, so first, let's get to the pending litigation against the original kind of owner of this collection, Brian Manso. Is Brian named in a lawsuit that was brought forth by Bricks and Minifigs?
Yes, he's named as a party to the lawsuit that is going after the...
Listen to all those ums and ers. Now he is on live TV, and maybe he's not good at public speaking. Maybe. But I noticed that I didn't hear a lot of these ums and ers when he was talking to Ben.
Individuals who published, like the false statements regarding the situation that's gone on in Salem, Oregon.
False statements, but he won't specify which ones.
And we're trying to work through that.
And that individual, is that the YouTuber who made the videos?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Minimal responses. And a vague, we're trying to work through that.
A comment I see reoccurring a lot is that this suit must be expensive, must take a whole effort from a large company. Why go this route instead of, as people say, try to just settle Brian's collection and move on and make everyone forget it? Was that ever an option?
Listen carefully to how he frames this, because I was catching on to it as he said it.
Oh, we've been working to try and work with Mr. Mansell for a good little while. We've asked for documentation as far back as a year ago, but we continue to reach out to try and get towards a resolution with the Mansell family on this matter.
Get to a resolution. Not resolve the complaint, not pay him back, not trying to get him his sets back. Reach a resolution. It's very specific framing for a narcissist, because it sounds really, really good on paper.
And have you and Mr. Mansell ever talked directly one-on-one?
Not as of yet. I have sent direct messages to the Mansell family and to Mr. Mansell specifically, seeking to have a sit-down meeting, meet at the table, and go over all the documentation that we have, and to be able to talk through. And from
I'm gonna run this one back again, because there's something particular in here that stood out to me.
We continue to reach out to try and get towards a resolution with the Mansell family.
Like I said, I already called out getting towards a resolution. That doesn't mean they're actually repaying him. It doesn't mean they're helping him out. This means they want to resolve the core conflict. They want to reach a stage where it is acceptable to them how they got there. They're not trying to make it right. They want to resolve it. They're very specific in the phrasing for a reason, because it sounds great on paper. Because a reasonable person would assume resolving it would be getting him his Legos and his money.
On this matter.
And have you and Mr. Mansell ever talked directly one-on-one?
Not as of yet.
Because you sent corp, right? Yeah.
Direct messages to the Mansell family and to Mr. Mansell specifically.
Okay, so you've sent messages. Doesn't say what's in them, just that you've sent messages.
Seeking to have a sit-down meeting, meet at the table.
Seeking to have a sit-down meeting at the table. That's very vague.
And go over all the documentation that we have, and to be
Go over all the documentation we have, which their documentation says that a previous franchisee signed a consignment deal, one that he's not. It's the same thing that started this all.
able to talk through, and from our side of things, if there have been any missteps.
From our side of things, if there have been any missteps
Through the transition of the store, we want to make things right. We want to
If there have been any missteps, we want to make them right.
do what's right by the customer, but all we asked for
We want to do right by the customer, but
was documentation, and every time we asked for that up to this point, we seem to kind of then lose the connection.
notice he was very vague. We want to do right by the customer, but all we've asked for is documentation, and whenever we get down that way, we have a breakdown in communication. We lose the connection. Plausible deniability. He wants to sit Brian down, remind him that these Legos are legally no longer his, that it wasn't their consignment agreement, he should be going after Crystal, and that he needs to shut up about this or he'll be sued in a lawsuit. Now, they might be willing to offer a lesser payment. They might be willing to pay him hush money to make it go away. That still will not actually change the fact that due to the shenanigans Ben did, Ben is still owed $10,000 of their stock for the figures he bought from Brian. So, well, upon resolution, Ben will get his Legos, and once Ben's lawsuit against your company is resolved, Brian will get his money. That's the general idea, yeah. But listen to this. It's like he's trying to frame it as, oh, we just want to sit down, have a talk with him over the facts, and then make a reasonable resolution to this. This is mafia speak if I've ever heard it.
So you've offered Brian the inventory of sets that was in the store.
Yeah, whatever was left over, we've offered that on
Whatever was left over, we offered that.
multiple occasions. And then, like if there was anything that had been done that was untoward by the previous franchisee.
Previous franchisees, like we've offered it, which is true. Josh did offer the Legos back.
If that individual had sold more than they let on,
Or more than they had time to resolve because you kicked them out of the store.
and did not pay Mr. Mansell, we've offered to compensate him for the loss of the compensation that should have been given to him.
I'm sure you've offered it. What were your conditions for it in return?
So we've tried to make multiple offers, and
Yep, we saw at least one of those in Ben's video, where Josh made an offer to return it in return for Brian taking down his claims they were stolen, his Facebook post that they don't like, and an apology, a recorded apology that would basically stop him from ever trying to get more of his Legos back. And all of that up front before they ever provide the Legos. I bet if we tried to get you to put this down in writing, Ammon, you wouldn't. You wouldn't sign a contract that would have you returning those Legos. Not if you could avoid it.
hopefully we'll be able to get them to the table so we can discuss it.
Hopefully we can get them to the table so we can discuss it. Look at how deadpan he is. I know I was saying it before with Josh, but look at his eyes. They're dead, like a doll's eyes.
As far as offering Brian the inventory, have you gone through the store, figured out what was part of his collection, taken inventory, and shown him that inventory
See that nervous swallow?
to offer that?
So again,
Look at his eyes, look at his eyes.
As this situation unfolded, and as additional investigations have continued to evolve so we could find out where there was a miscommunication.
Narcissists love the word miscommunication because it lets them blame you for trying to hold them accountable for what they said. I never said the thing I said in direct words to you. There was just some miscommunication, and they'll try and downgrade it for an audience or for trying to get something from you to something that sounds more reasonable on paper. It's like, I never said that. What I meant was this lesser thing. And you can have them dead to rights. You can have a video of them saying it and go, well, I misspoke. There was a misunderstanding. Because they can't admit they've done anything wrong. They are incapable of metabolizing the shame. And I think, I don't think this is 7 minutes in, is it?
There was some
Let's see, we'll figure it out as we go.
findings and discovery of like, hey, these seem to match some of the things that were being stated, but we don't have any indication otherwise. We were able to determine some other indicators later.
Oh, determining some other indicators later. Wow. Sounds a whole lot like somebody who isn't you made a mistake. I wonder if it was Josh or Brandon, and that's why you fired them.
And so all of those were set aside to say, hey, these may match.
These may match. Not an admission. Not a direct statement. Just things that might be what you're after.
So let's set them
Who could possibly know?
aside in case, like he can,
Let's put them aside in case of what? In case he can what?
like we can work together.
In case we can work together.
Then were offered to him, and the initial offer was rejected.
Because as we saw in the Reckless Ben video, that offer was rejected because what you wanted was to pretend you did nothing wrong, memory hole the whole thing, and get Ben and Brian to shut the fuck up. And even then, there was no guarantee you were going to carry through because you insisted on your demands first.
But then as we've continued, we've found additional documentation that shows where there were separate sets of books and spreadsheets being kept between, or from the former franchisee.
From the former franchisees. I want you to go back to that, though. Let's listen to this one real careful.
Additional documentation that shows where there were separate sets of books and spreadsheets being kept between,
Between. Between who, Ammon? You're going to shift this in your next sentence directly to Crystal. But your slip of the word between means you know there were more people involved. Most likely Josh.
Or from the former franchisee. And so as those things have come to light, we've tried to share those with Mr. Mansell in hopes that he can see, that we were not attempting in any way, shape, or form to withhold anything that we could verify, and that we do want to help him recover as much of the collection. Now, the initial...
As much of the collection as what, Ammon? Kind of left out an important detail there, didn't you?
Number was, promotional, but the actual factual information...
Actual factual. I'm sorry, that's not even Ammon's fault. I just like that. I do. I love that. It's a fun phrase.
Shows that the value of the more realistic value of the collection was closer to about $100,000, which is what the documentation that we've been able to determine that both parties to that consignment agreement kind of had an understanding between each other that was the actual real value.
So you dipped a bit into this new statement, and this concerns the previous owner of the franchise, the Kaiser branch. So tell me a little bit about what you guys found.
So, our franchise operates on the buy-sell trade model for Lego. We love Lego and everything that it stands for. And so, but we know that consignment agreements can be very difficult. And so we make sure that in our operations manual, through all of our training, we train all franchisees that consignment is not part of our model. It's written into the operations manual. It's trained on. It's very explicit. However, unfortunately, we had a franchisee go rogue, and
this entire section, this question, was entirely here so he could spend the entire time ragging on Crystal to make her look as bad as possible.
Enter into a consignment agreement with...
Why? Well, shoot, it couldn't be because she showed up in Reckless Ben's video with the corporate material that wasn't supposed to be leaked, explaining how this was supposed to go down.
Without our knowledge or...
Why do you think I covered this here?
Authorization, and then it appears that may not have been honored with the person that she had entered into that consignment agreement with, and then through other circumstances, we ended up...
What were the other circumstances, Ammon?
Retaking over that store, and
You can't talk about what those other circumstances were because it would raise more questions.
In the shuffle, there appears to have been just some confusion as to how, why, and where, some of this came about.
Look, he's avoiding eye contact, he's looking all around, he's picking his words carefully. Oh, there was just some confusion about the who, what, where, and why. Oh, we didn't know it. Nobody told us anything. Even though we have security footage of her openly saying it.
And as we tried to figure that out, we started uncovering more documents, more information.
As we tried to figure this out. You've had a few years to figure it out, Ammon. In fact, you could have had this resolved pretty quickly, pretty much day of. She was kicked out in May of 2023. You've had 3 years to take this seriously and look into the matter. You could have had this done in a few months, and you know it.
And what we found was that there were 3 separate sets of records that were being kept that shows that Mr. Mansell was significantly underpaid by that former franchisee. And so we've been trying to make
Couldn't have been because she was forced out of her store while she said she was trying to make sure he got paid. Ammon, did you even watch the security footage? Of course you didn't, you're a narcissist. Or so I'm speculating. But if he is a narcissist, of course he wouldn't watch the security footage. He's going off rumors. And her saying she needed to try and resolve what this man is owed before she's kicked out would have been buried. That would have been buried in all the rest of this because of all the other insane crap Ammon's been doing. But it's right there in the security footage. If he's significantly underpaid for what was sold, it's because she was kicked out from her store before she could resolve it. In your greed, you created this problem.
Sure that we can properly do like a forensic accounting and make sure everything is being looked at properly so that we can work together to get that family resolution.
Narcissists love this. Let's work together, but only if you do everything I tell you to do.
And we, for our part, will reach out to those parties as well. You mentioned a couple terms I want to get into. That the franchisee agreement was not honored. Does that mean you're saying Mr. Mansell was underpaid by the franchisee?
Do you want to slander the former franchisee more?
From what we can tell, yes. The documentation that we've been able to pull out from a couple of different sources indicates that more sets were sold than were reported to him, and from that unauthorized consignment agreement. But that
See, more sets were sold, but she couldn't resolve it because you kicked her out of her store. And then you had to remind everybody that the franchisee went into a consignment agreement you had nothing to do with, because keeping that detail in the foremost of everybody's mind is crucial for you controlling the narrative and making yourself the victim here.
The overall payments to him did not match what had been sold through the store under the previous franchisee.
You hinted at the circumstances by which the franchise was taken over. Now this, I'm sure, is the thing you've been asked a million times. Do you want to get into it all, that security?
The smirk.
Camera footage. And you said in the new statement, I believe it is that Bricks and Minifigs did not know about this consignment agreement at any point before that security camera footage was taken. Is that true?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so what does this change in terms of the case? If I'm a regular Bricks and Minifigs enjoyer, and I'm looking at all of these videos, all of this coverage, what would you want me to think now that I know?
Keeps smirking, keeps reeling it back in.
Didn't know about the franchisee agreement before the change of hands.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is knowing that obviously this took place in 2023, and since then we have been continuously working to tighten our oversight with our franchisees.
Yeah, like firing employees who comment on Reckless Ben's videos.
Make sure that we have more field agents capable of making more field visits.
To make sure nobody's commenting on Reckless Ben's videos.
And doing field audits to look at records, documents, things along those lines to understand what's really happening in each of the locations. So we've increased the oversight with our franchise system. And
all of this sounds good on paper, but I guarantee in function, from having worked in retail, this literally means nothing. This is just extra bureaucracy. That's all this is, at best. And whether or not he even carries through on it, nobody's going to care. He might do it for like a year and then stop doing it entirely. Just liquidate the entire position.
That is, I think, a really big and important part for everything, so that customers know that franchisees will be following the rules of the franchise system and providing better protections to the end customers when they come in.
All right, and just to wade a little bit into that, we have a couple Bricks and Minifigs in the area. A lot of people have seen this story, and they are worried now. What are the steps that corporate can take to dissuade fears here? Is it taking legal action here?
I think the most important thing is to ensure that we are protecting our franchisees, and that the safety of our stores is our number one priority. The safety of our franchisees, the customers, their families, everything. That's our number one priority. And so ensuring that people are held accountable for making false statements and, like taking advantage of other people's circumstances in this.
Like you took advantage of Brian's.
In this matter, that's why we've taken the legal action that we have, is to hold people accountable. But at the same time, we're also willing to sit down and work through things and make sure that we can just take anything that is something that we can.
See how he's fishing for words. Narcissists will do this because they say what they want to say. It could potentially prove what they're actually doing. They can frame it like, well, I'm in the public eye, I want to make sure I get it right, I want to make sure that it can't be twisted by the other person because I'm the victim. But what they're really trying to do is, how do I accurately describe my intentions in a way that makes me look good? So they will workshop in their head on the fly, because they don't think 5 steps ahead. They say what works for them in the moment. So right now, he's looking through his mental armory for the most productive and useful tool to get him out of trouble here.
Work together on. I think that will help us resolve any issues that we have, and if we can make sure that people know that we're not going to sacrifice the safety of our franchise locations, then that will, I think, help now and in the future.
To him, safety of his franchise and location is shutting Ben up and making this crisis disappear. We saw that in his letter to his franchisees. His goal is to keep his employees ignorant so they can continue to discredit Ben. His goal is to sit down with Brian and Ben in quiet to find a resolution that works for him and can make this go away. And if he can't get that, he even made it sound here like he's willing to drop even Reckless Ben if he can just get proper commentary to get what he wants, which is an out. He wants an out from this bad publicity. Why do you think he fired Josh and Brandon?
So what are you asking?
Look at that smirk. That is a smirk of a man who knows that he's in a safe place, who knows that what he just said was bought over, and he's imagining all the people at home who fully believe what he just said. He said his corporate line, he got his narrative, and similar to Josh laughing on that porch, he thinks he's winning.
Brian Mansell.
And then watch as he reels it back in for the next statement. The smile never lingers. It is a reward, a private reward for a successful narrative spun.
Well, our number one priority in this entire situation is and has been to ensure that anybody, including Mr. Mansell and his family, they are treated fairly. And so, as we've gone through the documents and as we've looked at everything, our number one priority right now is to ensure that he gets made whole. With the underreporting that took place and the documents that we now have that shows what actually went on, we know that we have a responsibility to work with him to make sure he does get made whole. And so we're working towards that, and we're hoping that he'll be able to come to the table. We're excited to be able to.
We want to make him whole. No idea what that would look like, but we're willing to make him whole, and we want him to come to the table.
To make that happen. And so we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're working diligently.
We want to make sure everyone knows we're working diligently on this. It's about the display. It's about presenting yourself reasonable.
To get him to the table so that we can get that taken care of.
So we can get him to the table and get that taken care of. It's like, okay, our goal is to let everybody know that we're doing everything we can to get Brian to sit down and come to an agreement with us that can make all of this go away.
Saying make whole, will that include saying, hey, 780 sets, 1,200 minifigs, we're going to tell you what we have where, we're going to tell you what we think was sold. Does that come with making him whole?
Yes, yep. Being able to show all the documents And if he was, you know,
And if,
again, as we believe through the documentation, not paid the way that he should have been, then we would cover the difference.
sounds so good on paper. I bet you won't put any unreasonable conditions on it in private.
All right, Mr. Ammon McNabb, CEO of Bricks and Minifigs, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Another smirk.
Thank you.
And for once, the smile sticks because he's free. Every other time he started talking afterward, the smile would vanish. But at the end of this interview, it lingers. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. You may say, why did I go through all that right now? Well, because there is another video I have set aside for this. This is before the body cam footage was leaked.
The American Fork Police Department has responded to the video I made about them.
We're going to pause it real quick because I need to resize it apparently. I need to resize this apparently. Give me a moment. My TV has taken over the entire stage. Hello, help. There we go. Give me a moment. Now, this is technically not this is technically not a part of the narcissistic part of it, so I should skip over it like I did Ben, but I felt like this is an important one to cover. Because this, especially at the end of the video here, this is really what helped to sell me on the fact that the police department likely doesn't even know what happened. I don't even know, it's still too big. Why are you still too big? Can I fix this again? Hold up. Can we do this? No, that's already what it was. Come on, man. Yeah. Too small. We'll deal with it exploding from my TV screen. That's fine. I'll figure it out later. We'll just accept that. Like I said, low budget, you know, low budget, high passion. That's what we do here. I still like this better than my old way of doing things. Anyway, as I was saying in one of my videos, I don't think the police are the bad guys here. I don't think they're in on it. I think they bought a narrative and they think Ben is Johnny Somali, and I'm going to try and use this as my proof.
In Cedar Hills community regarding some videos currently circulating on social media.
So now I will offer a response to their response. There's a lot of new information in this response that I've been wanting to get for a long time, so we'll go over that first. One of the main questions in my video was, why did I get swatted for stealing the Legos when this wasn't a mystery to the police officers and they knew that I didn't steal the Legos, that Josh stole the Legos.
He basically stole a $200,000 collection of Star Wars Legos.
But still, why did they raid my house for stealing the Legos when...
Probably as a form of escalation to get a warrant on you in the first place. Probably Ammon's idea, frankly.
There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that Josh stole the Legos.
Because they think you're Johnny Somali.
I requested the body cam footage of this to try to find the answers myself. They redacted everything, and they claimed it was to protect the victims. However, one of my friends set up a GoPro as we were getting swatted, and we caught the entire conversation on camera.
Included in the warrant are Legos.
For 3 months, the police department's answer has been, this redaction is important because it protects Josh, the victim of this case. However, we can clearly see that the police are looking for Legos and they saw no Legos. And they redacted this because they were embarrassed that they made such a stupid decision to swat the wrong person.
No, they redacted it because it revealed that they were harassing a YouTuber.
Legos that in all the police reports, it is completely redacted. The police department wants this information hidden so bad that they're willing to break the law to hide this from everyone. The only reason I know about it is because the receipt I got the night I was released from jail and my friend's GoPro that was recording. So even though I've been asking them for 3 months why I got swatted, they finally came up with an answer, which is the Airbnb host told them that I stole the Legos.
During contact with the Airbnb owner, the owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos. Specifically, officers wrote in the search warrant affidavit, the homeowner also disclosed that he could hear multiple individuals inside the residence speaking about possibly stolen Lego toys they had taken.
I want you to think about this. Of course they're talking about the stolen Legos. They're trying to resolve Brian's situation. The Airbnb host just says, I heard something about stolen Legos. And the officer could absolutely, as we've already seen in the interrogation room, if he thinks he's going after a Johnny Somali sort, just to again try and intimidate, pressure, and, disincentivize this ongoing harassment. Go, is it possible they were talking about having stolen some Legos themselves? Keep in mind, we do have a record saying the corporate says there were thefts from that store, so yeah, no, that's a plausible reason to get a search warrant to further put pressure on Ben if he's doing this for the money.
Based on that information, officers added a request within the search warrant affidavit seeking authorization to also search for and seize possible stolen property, including Lego merchandise. 4th District Judge Roger W. Griffin reviewed and approved the search warrant.
I always like giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I will take the police officer's word on this, but something fishy is going on here, and everything can just be cleared up if you unredact the audio and let everyone see the truth. Also, after we got raided and the police officers found no Legos, all of this footage has been redacted too. And my guess is if the police unredact this footage, we will find out the answers once and for all. While we were getting swatted, one of the police officers decided to injure me for absolutely no reason. He claims it's because I was trying to make a fast movement.
Don't move like that. You understand me? Don't move like that.
And as we previously discussed, he was trying to stop you from recording. Because he thinks you're doing this for YouTube content and money.
When we replay the footage, you can clearly see I was not making any fast movements. However, the police department has an answer to this.
During Snyder's detention, Lieutenant Adamson took hold of Snyder's right arm. Lieutenant Adamson later reported that he felt Snyder tense his arm, at which point Adamson moved Snyder's right arm behind his back to place him into custody.
Of course he tensed his right arm. He was trading his phone from his right hand that you were restraining to his left, and you made a fast movement in on him. Now, Ben isn't going to discuss it here. In fact, I'm going to skip over it. But he's like, you know what? It's kind of funny. I'll let him do. But he has an explanation.
The police department has made it clear I did not, in fact, make any quick movements like the police officer claims I did. So the police officer was lying, but not fully, because I did tense my arm. However, he lunges at me extremely fast before he even touches me. So how could he even know that I was tensing my arm before he even grabs me? That doesn't make any sense. There's only one solution. This police officer has psychic powers, and he can tell.
Okay, no, he also, I'm going to jump past that one because I just like that one as a joke, but no, he basically explains that if the officer had psychic powers, then he would know. By the way, it's psychic. Anyway, if they had psychic powers, then they'd know that it was Josh who stole the Legos, therefore this can't work either. But we have an explanation. He saw that you were pulling out your phone to record. He didn't want to be recorded because he's trying to disenfranchise, because if you record this, that gives you content, and that doesn't do the thing they're trying to do, which is stop you from thinking you can turn innocent people into YouTube content. So that's their game plan, is punish you for trying to make YouTube content out of this. So we're going to jump past this and up to the next.
Is that this police officer injured me for no reason. However, the police have another response to this of why I must be lying.
In the X-ray image displayed by Mr. Snyder in that video, a small L is visible in the upper right-hand corner of the X-ray.
They're going to say that this is proof that he didn't go get X-rayed. And of course they knew he wasn't going to go get X-rayed. He was frickin' in there getting interrogated, and trust me, if your arm was dislocated, he didn't have time to get an X-ray for a dislocated arm. So obviously that's not what that was. To be fair, in their defense, Ben was presenting it as though it was evidence that it was actually dislocated. All we have is his word versus theirs, and as far as they're concerned, he's Johnny Somali, so I get it. I am going to go to the next statement they make.
If I find shocking is the chief of police, even after reviewing the dash cam footage, says that we ran a stop sign.
Richardson initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle for failing to stop before the stop line at a stop sign and failing to stop completely at that stop sign.
The chief of police looked at this video and said, "We ran a stop sign."
There's no stop line
Now he's
either.
using that to say, this was a legal traffic stop. The police officers did nothing wrong.
He pulled slightly around the corner. As the son of a former police dispatcher, I don't know if that's enough for it to not qualify. He pulled ahead of the sign. He pulled around the corner, but he did stop for like a whole 2 seconds after having done so. So if you wanted an excuse for a traffic stop, you could fudge this, and somebody'd have to prove they didn't do it. So it's a really not bad argument, but it's not a good one either.
Legal way, and instead called the police on us.
Joshua Johnson contacted police and reported he was going to shoot someone as a result of the ongoing harassment. Multiple officers immediately responded to the area.
Josh was so scared of going to court that he would rather shoot us than accept these court papers.
This is the first time we get a revelation that Josh had mentioned anything about shooting somebody. But I promise you, he forgot that he even said that right after he made the call, because the whole point of saying he was willing to shoot them was to get the police to take us seriously and show up in person.
If he can murder the process server, and if he can murder me, then he can get away with his crimes, because there'll be no one to sue him in court.
You're giving him too much credit, Ben. That was not the game plan. The game plan was to shut you up, and to punish anybody helping you. If he can get you to stop talking, it doesn't matter. He can clean up the rest after. He just needs to stop you. It's not a matter of getting away with his crime. He just needs to stop hearing about it. Then he can work on memory holing it after. They do not think that far ahead. This is not a scheme to murder you in hopes that will somehow get them off scot-free. They are willing to murder you only to shut you up, and then they will figure out the rest after. They are one step at a time kind of people.
However, sadly for Josh, murder is illegal. And now he just admits...
Well, castle doctrine. Also, if he thought he was afraid for his life, which narcissists really genuinely do. It's why I don't go anywhere near them. A member of my family who's a narcissist admitted, completely unprompted, that they are so threatened by me that they had to get a stun gun. And I'm like, I haven't even wanted to come anywhere near you for ages. I want nothing to do with you. I've told you this before. Now that you've admitted you have a stun gun, please stay away from me, because I don't want to get stun gunned out of nowhere because you have a problem with me.
Admitted his plans to the police officers. The American Fork Police should at least be arresting Josh for trying to use murder as a way to get out of court. But sadly, for some reason, they arrested me instead.
Am I being arrested? Really?
Something about this seems off. All of the answers are in the body cam footage. However, they redacted all the body cam footage. So this is where I think if we all come together as a community, we can somehow convince the American Fork Police Department to unredact this footage so we can find out why they arrested me and not the guy who threatened to murder me. However, the American Fork Police does not want to unredact the footage right now, and now have made up a new excuse of why I was the one justified being arrested.
Officer Sumbot contacted the Marion County Circuit Court in Oregon to verify the legitimacy of the paperwork. The court confirmed that the case was indeed legitimate, but that papers had already been served and no hearing date had yet been scheduled.
The police department said the reason they arrested me
We actually have the body cam footage saying otherwise, so if the police officer put that in his report, which I'm assuming is what this commissioner is speaking from, that is lying on federal papers. So that would be the second case of corruption after the unlawful redactions of them trying to figure out how to take away a banner and make it legal.
Josh this day is because they called to confirm if this was a real court case, and they said it was real. However, the papers have already been served, and now I'm doing this solely to get YouTube content. And if that's true, I would like to see footage of it. They released all the raw footage, and that part doesn't seem to be in the raw footage.
It's already been to court, or are you allowed to tell me kind of where they're at with the case?
There is no hearing date set. There hasn't been a hearing in the case yet. All I see is the claim that was filed. I
I don't see proof of service, so even at the time of this, there was already body cam footage saying that it had not been served yet.
The hearing wouldn't be set until a response is filed by defendant.
Okay, so the defendant needs to be served with papers before the case will, I guess, start?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your help. That's all.
Like I said, I think that they're bending the rules a little here and there to try and punish a Johnny Somali sort. There is some corruption being done, but it's under the justification of there's an innocent man being harassed.
Yep. No problem. Okay, bye.
Right here, the police officer admits that it is March 10th.
On March 10th, 2026.
However, you can see here that Josh doesn't get served until 3 days later, March 13th. So how could Josh have already been served on March 10th if he didn't get served until March 13th? Unless Josh is a time traveler. There's only one way to clear this hole.
I love Ben's explanations, but no.
American Fork Police Department, show me the time machine. So now, they say that I have done all the check marks which constitute stalking. Let's go through them.
Individual commits stalking if the individual intentionally or knowingly engages in a course of conduct directed at a specific individual.
So yes, I did do an action that was targeted at a specific individual, but that's what's required by the court if I want to take someone to court. If someone steals your stuff,
He's talking about more than just the serving of the papers. The serving of the papers are just one incident in a chain of instances.
and you go through the legal process to take them to court, it is not considered stalking. I have a right as an American to sue him.
Is reckless as to whether that course of conduct would cause a reasonable person to fear for the individual's own safety or the safety of another.
The second check mark is that if a reasonable person would be scared.
And they assume Josh is reasonable. It sounds reasonable when he says it.
The police are claiming that since this action made Josh scared, this check mark is complete. However, they've completely forgotten about the term reasonable. As we can see, Josh is not a reasonable person. This is someone who multiple times has tried to silence someone by accusing them of being on heroin.
Here's the crazy thing. They told me that they took over that location because the owners were using the location to fund their heroin addiction.
See, right there. I knew it was going to come up in this video. I knew it. I feel so justified. Okay, so this is how they got her disenfranchised. I'm 100% convinced that this is how they got her disenfranchised. They wanted this store, probably because they advertised they had $200,000 worth of Star Wars Legos, which, let's just assume Ammon didn't find out until after the fact. It was only a little over $100,000. They saw they had $200,000 worth of vintage Star Wars Legos, hot property, and they saw that this person had it on consignment. And they're like, okay, so we have these. We haven't paid for them, and if we kick her out, we're not responsible for paying for it. We can leave her holding the bag while we leave with $200,000. And then they got there and found out it was $100K, but we'll get there. It's neither here nor there. And their entire game plan was to turn Crystal into the scapegoat. So what do? They destroy her reputation. She was already leaving the country. From what I've heard and what I can tell, she's a heavy anti-Trumper. So she was probably a part of that wave of people in 2023 who wanted to leave the country before Trump came to office for her own liberty and freedom. Because she saw Trump might win. It was like, nope, we're not doing this. She was recognizing what was going on, left for other business things and overseas. And for her own part, she wrote a book. From what I can tell, it's fine. Either way, she was gonna leave. That was the game plan. And then, since she was already leaving the country, they had plausible reason to go, well, she's leaving the country because heroin. And so they accused her of heroin, and it worked. Got her disenfranchised. They were able to kind of bounce her out of town. Because if she didn't leave, they were going to get cops in here over heroin. That was their game plan. They were already framing it up. It was fine. And what do they do to Ben? Oh, they get him pulled over and searched for heroin, because narcissists are not very clever people. I remember why I kept thinking this was going to come up, because this video is the second one I ever watched. See, the first video of his I ever watched was the part 2 where he got arrested. I then saw that the police had responded to that video and thought, okay, I'll give them a chance. I'll see what's going on. And that's when I heard about this.
What? Yeah, and that's how they took it over. And saying they had like a pigeon in there that was crapping all over the Legos. And
Another lie.
it smelled bad, all this stuff.
This is
Fabrications to get what they wanted.
someone who threatened to murder me just for trying to serve him papers. This is not a reasonable person. It is not reasonable to threaten to murder someone just for serving papers. A reasonable...
It is when you think you're being harassed by a Johnny Somali sort and you live in America, where self-defense from somebody who's threatening your life is possible. The police would recognize this threat to shoot you as sign of enough distress to be concerned for his own personal safety. This is again why, instead of participating in the arms race, I am content to stay as far away from the narcissists in my life as possible.
person would accept the papers, so that second checkbox does not meet the requirements. I even tried explaining this to one of the police officers early on.
What the law says is if the average person would feel unsafe by our behaviors, so I think he is feeling unreasonably unsafe, a reasonable person would not feel unsafe in this situation. Well, I can say the same thing. I feel unsafe trying to conduct business with him, and he calls the police on me to hide. I feel unsafe because of that. Because we had a 3-hour search in our car. He said we had heroin in our car yesterday. We had a 3-hour search in our car. That makes me feel unsafe. I think that's reasonable for me to feel unsafe. It's not reasonable for him to feel unsafe.
So Josh is actually the one who said he was going to murder me if I take him to court. But now, I'm the one that's being looked into for threatening to murder Josh. How does this make any sense?
Because he portrayed himself as the victim and did so from a stance of what's more reasonable. That a perfectly wonderful businessman is trying to resolve a business matter gone wrong with somebody who has decided to use low tactics, or that he stole a bunch of Legos, strong-armed somebody into silence, and is now being harassed by a man who has his own religion.
Johnson alleged that Mansell had hired Benjamin Snyder to harass, stalk, vandalize the store, threaten to murder the manager of the store.
Now, let's...
See all those complaints we heard about before? What Josh was saying? He's been hired. Do you see the purpose? He convinced the police force of that. You saw the body cam footage of him doing it too. Where he made this whole case that Ben is a hired gun meant to strong-arm and harass and extort him into paying something he doesn't owe, and he's willing to destroy property to get there. This is some like skis bag tactics based on how Josh framed it.
Go to the heroin claim. We got pulled over by the police, and they claimed that we had heroin on us. Most of this footage is redacted, so again, there's a big mystery of what happened. Can we all come together and convince the American Fork Police Department to unredact this so we can find out the truth? However, what the police is claiming now is that they did not get a call saying that we had heroin on us. Instead, they could just tell from the second we pulled over that our eyes were glossy.
During the interaction, Officer Fraughton indicated he believed Shaw's eyes appeared glossy and expressed concern regarding possible impairment.
Again, they're trying to harass a Johnny Somali sort. They're trying to make this not worth your time or whatever you were paid to come harass an innocent man. And thanks to qualified immunity, as long as they can come up with a plausible reason, they can do it. Because honestly, if you were a Johnny Somali sort and you were harassing an innocent man, nobody in the public would care. We would laugh at you the same way we do Johnny Somali. But that's because that would be justice. The American Fork Police Department does not realize that what they've done is enable a narcissist.
If we look back on the raw footage, this is what the police officer said his first interaction with us was like.
Good with these guys being able to drive? Yeah, I think so. I didn't see anything clear as day with Tyler that I noticed.
What's the goal?
Right now? Yeah, I was gonna scare him a little bit and let him go. Is all I really was gonna do.
See, the goal was to scare him a little bit and let him go. Let him know this isn't a game. Let them know you can't just harass people for YouTube clicks. They were misled as to what's going on.
Charges, or are we just tired of them being annoying?
Or are we just tired of them being annoying? See what I mean? As far as they're concerned, you're Johnny Somali. You're just here to harass people. They aren't taking you seriously because the well has been poisoned.
It seems hard to take what the chief of police is saying seriously because so far almost everything he said is a lie. So the only way we can actually find out the truth is if we unredact everything. We already know the victim's name is Joshua Johnson. Why do we have to keep that protected?
Because it's not Josh they were protecting, it was Ammon. Ammon requested that his name, his voice, his likeness be redacted because he is not a part of this. He is an innocent party as far as they're concerned in a harassment claim. So anytime he was referenced, they had a right. Whenever he was on the phone, they had a right to redact it within the law.
Name is already out there. None of these redactions are protecting anything except for the police. Now,
They were protecting Ammon.
I want to acknowledge my friend Sheldon's arrest.
The group stated they were supporting a GoFundMe campaign for a dying man. One of the individuals later identified as Sheldon Norcross. Officer Richardson then decided to seize Norcross's phone, pending the approval of a search warrant, in order to preserve potential evidence and prevent the deletion or alteration of any data.
Well, I'm going to jump over this one because it's immensely clear that that's what he was claiming. That was going to be his defense. I thought you were deleting. We already saw him jump to that conclusion immediately as soon as he started. We also know that his real reason was to prevent himself from being recorded for YouTube clicks and for YouTube videos. So I whatever they say here, I'm going to let him speak. But that's really what's going on here, is this man is using the official reports, the official given reason, and counting on qualified immunity, but the actual reason was he didn't want to be recorded.
According to Officer Richardson's reports, when Norcross was informed that the phone was going to be seized, Norcross immediately began manipulating the device.
The police officer claims that Sheldon was arrested because he opened his phone to start deleting evidence. However, we can clearly see in the footage Sheldon's thumb is heading towards that lock button to lock his phone.
Even in the footage we see from the spy camera, we can see that he's telling the truth, that it was on the wallet page while the officer's holding it. You can actually see it in the footage.
His phone was open when he pulled it out, and the phone was transitioning from on to off, not from off to on. From this response, it almost seems like the police officers didn't even watch the video. So,
They
the
didn't.
American Fork Police Department, if I'm your
They didn't watch the video at all. They have their official documents, they have their official narrative, and they've written you off as a Johnny Somali sort. They're not going to watch your stuff. The well was poisoned by Josh in advance.
teacher, here's your homework. First off, learn the facts of what actually happened. Second off, stop lying about the facts.
Alright. So that's going to be it for where we're at with the Bricks and Minifigs situation. As of the moment of this recording, that's all of it. That's all we have, that's what we've got. And I know those first two videos are just over one thing, 5 hours of content, but you needed to understand that's where the meat of this was. Everything that's happened since then has been the fallout, because Reckless Ben was met with every single step of narcissistic abuse and assault and manipulation, all the poisoning of the well. Now we're up to poisoning the whole water supply, for Pete's sake. If my speculation is right, and Ammon, alongside Josh, and possibly even Brandon. I didn't even notice in the security footage, Brandon is the smart one. He stayed quiet. He didn't say anything. He had somebody on the phone, and I'm willing to bet it was either Josh, Ammon, or somebody that was in corporate with Ammon. Either way, Brandon didn't talk through any of this. Brandon is the muscle. I don't think he's innocent. He's the first one I'm going to say that I don't think he's a narcissist, but I don't think he's innocent. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, exactly what he was sent to do, and that this is a normal thing for him. So he plays the muscle, then the lawyers take care of the rest. That's pretty much been his whole thing, because he's bullying people with Legos, for Pete's sake. It doesn't take much. But like I said, Josh and Ammon, to the best I can tell, are two narcissists that have been working in concert to make this stuff happen. From all their tactics they've used, they tried every method to get Ben to act like a reasonable person and to leave them alone. And it has escalated to this point in time where Ammon wants Ben's head on a pike. He wants Ben gone. He wants Ben shut up, because Ben's failure to shut up is destroying everything he's ever built to pretend he's doing good, to pretend he's innocent. He just wants this all to go away. The only malice comes from the fact that Ben won't shut the fuck up. If Ben were to completely vanish and go into the woodwork and never talk about this again, the malice would stop. Ammon would be free. He would hope that, like, the fact that you went into the woodwork is success enough. He just needs you so scared and so roughed up that you don't ever try this stuff again. Leave him alone and let him forget about the horrible things he does to people. So that's where we're at right now. The last update was Ammon was, as you saw in the interview, talking about getting them back to Brian, but I guarantee he will never publicize what he's doing with that. And he will do all he can to, like, discredit Brian if he talks about what those agreements are looking like. And the general idea is he's trying to get Ben into the open so he can get Ben arrested, form the narrative in a legal court to get legal paperwork to say he was the victim the entire time, and then try and memory hole this. Ammon's entire goal to this day is to try and salvage his company from his own narcissism by doubling and tripling down on discrediting Ben, discrediting Brian, and shutting everybody up around this until he can eventually, hopefully, pretend none of this happened. And he will do whatever it takes. He really will. I honestly think that if he was left alone with Ben and a gun, he would shoot Ben and then make the claim that Ben was reaching for the gun, even if he wasn't, because he would fully believe in his heart, in that moment he reached for the gun to shoot Ben, that Ben was about to do the same thing to him. He will have no guilt, he will have no shame, he will not own it. This is why I try and stay out of the room with the people in my family who are narcissists, because they have already expressed a willingness to inflict harm on me. Again, all of this was speculation, using 30 years of experience dealing with narcissists to try and explain what the line of reasoning is. This is not a medical accusation on anyone involved in this case, and all of the methods suggested here are for educational purposes for your own protection. If you happen to have a narcissist in your life, remove yourself discreetly and quietly. Do not give them more to work with than you have to. And absolutely, under all conditions, do not escalate. Do not participate in the narcissist arms race, and do not project. Do not confront them. Do not try and project any of what I've said here onto someone, because if you're doing that, you're the narcissist. Finally, document all of your interactions with narcissists within legal means. Do so regularly, do it often, keep records, because there's nothing that narcissists are more allergic to than evidence. If more unfolds on this situation, expect another video. For now, this is all I needed to cover on the matter. This is where we're at. I'll only make another video if something productive and educational for narcissistic behavior comes up. We'll see. That probably won't happen until the actual court trial happens. If this does any good for anybody, please let me know in the comments. I know it's low effort, high passion, but I will at least be using this one case all the way to completion for this little project of mine. The intent entirely being to form a educational network. That way all of you guys can know these tactics when you see them, take precautions to protect yourselves and those you care about, and become aware that this is a medical issue. These people are not aware of what they're doing. There is no malice, there is no intent. It's not vicious, it is defensive. It doesn't make it okay, but I need you guys to understand that you shouldn't be trying to convince them to change. You shouldn't be trying to confront them on this. You shouldn't be trying to convince them they're wrong. That is participating in the arms race. If you see people doing these things, when you try and confront them on something, cooperate with their version of reality, back down as directed, and then remove yourself from ever having to interact with them again if at all possible. Provide them nothing more, give them nothing more to work with, cut them off from supply, and retreat quietly. Do so as swiftly as you can and without tipping your hand. That is for your safety, because if you stonewall, they may very well attempt to punish you for not giving them the supply they want. So until you have a clear escape route, do what you can to keep them placated, quietly plan your escape, and then leave and cut all contact. They will paint you as a monster, they will paint you as the bad guy. Do not engage. Don't take the hit. Explain your story to people outside of that later, and provide your documentation. And do not engage with the narcissist. I hope this was educational for you all. I hope that I can make a short video next time on this, and yeah, have a wonderful day.